Black America has always been the testing ground for leftist policies. Black America has always been the experiment for Democrats. When I wrote my book, Blackout, I had quite the fight. Thank you very much. You guys have no idea how hard I fought to write that book with Simon & Schuster. I'm probably one of the only conservatives that actually wrote their own book. Usually they get a ghostwriter, put their face on it, and that's it. I wrote every single word of that book, and it was an uphill battle with Simon & Schuster, who wanted to gut it and turn it into something else. From the beginning, from the subtitle, I picked the subtitle of the book, Blackout, How Black America Can Make Its Second Escape from Democrat Plantations. Right? And the Simon Schuster said, oh no, that's too strong, right? It's offensive. I'm like, that's the point. And then the Washington Post ran a hit piece on me saying that I've popularized the phrase, Candace Owens has popularized the phrase amongst Republicans, Democrat plantation, and how dare she, that is so offensive. That's the point. But not only is that the point, I then wrote an entire chapter describing what I meant, because I wasn't saying it to just be offensive, I was saying it because I meant it. And I want you guys to understand this. Democrats never stopped their plantations of slavery. They just updated them. They remodeled them. They refashioned them for the times. When you think about the times of slavery, you think about what it actually took for a plantation owner to maintain its slaves. One element was that they had to make sure via slave codes that no slave was allowed to learn to read. Okay? No slave was allowed to learn to read. That was actually such a crucial philosophy, such a crucial law, that if you were a white person during those times and you were taught teaching a slave to read, you could also be charged. You could also be punished. You say, Candace, it doesn't exist today. Black people are allowed to learn how to read. Really? 75% of black boys in California can't pass a basic reading exam. Across 5 schools in Baltimore, they couldn't find a single child that was proficient in reading and writing. A single child across 5 schools in the inner cities. You want to know why they're teaching critical race theory? You want to know also why they're pushing that down the pipeline? It's to make sure that the kids are dumber and dumber and dumber, and yet convinced that they're super educated. And I don't say that in jest. I do not say that in jest. If you read Thomas Sowell like I do, which I recommend you do from cover to cover always, he wrote a book called Inside the American Education System, The Lies, the Dogma, and the Deception. And in this book, I was floored to learn that Americans that are living right now, we are producing, literally, I'm not saying this to be funny, the dumbest kids that have ever existed in America. From the standardized test perspective, these are the dumbest kids. You say, this is math, this is reading, answer these questions. These kids are the dumbest. Yet, here's the interesting part. We have never given out more degrees. So these kids have the most degrees, and yet they are factually speaking dumber than they've ever been. That's an interesting equation, right? It's an interesting equation. You gotta think about that. You have to say, why would we do that? Why are we handing out degrees? How is it possible that we're handing out more degrees? These kids have the most degrees that we've ever had, and yet they're dumber. How does that work? Well, it works because if you do a cursory search and you see what children can actually study in school, you'll be shocked what you can get a degree in. You can get a degree in gender studies. I thought I'd check it off in kindergarten when they said 2 genders, boys' bathroom, girls' bathroom, right? Now you can spend 4 years learning what it took me in 1 class in kindergarten to learn. That's a meaningless degree. You can get degrees in civic responsibility, social responsibility. They're handing out woke degrees and keeping kids for 4 years, putting them in debt $100,000, like me, I had $100,000 of student loan debt, to give them a meaningless degree. Why are they doing that? Well, because they know that these kids will come out and they will know nothing, but they will be convinced that they know everything. They want them to be passionately stupid. That's the only way to describe it. To be passionate about their stupidity. And you might say, why does the government want that, right? Because imagine being a kid who spent 4 years getting your gender studies degree, being so convinced and so pompous, so arrogant, and going out into society, and finding out that you can't get a job. Because as it turns out, we don't need that many people that are majors in gender studies to get the day going.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so you imagine being that kid who then sees the kid that he went to school with that didn't go to college. That kid's fixing air conditionings, and he's making 6 figures because it turns out we need a couple of people that can do some plumbing and can fix some air conditionings. And so what happens to that kid who went to college? He becomes angry. He becomes angry because he feels like he was robbed. He's angry that that kid is more successful than him and he went to trade school. He's angry that that kid maybe tagged along with his dad to work and he's making more money than he is, doesn't understand it. So of course that kid thinks the system is broken. I did everything right, the system is broken. And that kid has learned in school the system is broken because capitalism is backwards, because capitalism is wrong. So that's part of the plantation economics, right? Make sure the slaves don't learn. I meant it when I said that.